I was sitting in my car holding the small velvet box that carried all my hopes and dreams. 3 years with Jasmine had been the best years of my life, and tonight I was going to ask her to be my wife. The ring had cost me 3 months of savings, but she deserved every penny. We had been talking about our future together more and more lately, especially since finding out about the baby. I had rehearsed my speech a dozen times, planned every detail of this evening to make it perfect. I had no idea that in just a few hours my entire world would shatter into a million pieces. Before I share how my entire world shattered that night, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had someone's betrayal completely blindside you. I met Jasmine at my college friend Tyler's wedding 3 years ago. I was 30 at the time, working as a software developer at Blue Tech, a growing company that had just secured major funding. The wedding was beautiful, but I was feeling a bit out of place until I noticed her across the reception hall. She was laughing with a group of friends, her dark, curly hair catching the light. When our eyes met, something just clicked. "You look about as comfortable at weddings as I feel," she said when we finally introduced ourselves at the bar. "That obvious, huh?" I replied immediately, drawn to her warm smile and direct approach. We spent the rest of the evening talking. Jasmine was 28, worked as a graphic designer for an advertising agency, and shared my love for hiking photography and trying new restaurants. By the end of the night, I had her number and a first date planned. Our relationship progressed naturally from there. We discovered more common interests and complemented each other perfectly. Where I was analytical and sometimes overthinking things, Jasmine was spontaneous and creative. She brought color into my methodical world, and I provided the stability she sometimes lacked. After 18 months of dating, we decided to move in together. Our apartment was small but cozy, filled with her artwork and my tech gadgets. What made our relationship work was our communication. We talked through everything from minor annoyances to bigger life decisions. I truly believed we were unbreakable. "I have never felt so understood by anyone," Jasmine told me one night as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset. "You actually listen when I talk." "That is because everything you say matters to me," I answered honestly. It was this foundation that made me believe we could face anything together. Looking back, I was naive to think that our relationship was immune to outside influence. Amanda entered our story early, but her true impact would not be felt until much later. She was Jasmine's childhood friend, someone who had been through everything with her growing up. From the first time we met, I could tell Amanda never quite warmed to me. "So you are the famous Marcus," she had said. During our first introduction, her smile, not reaching her eyes. "Jasmine has been absolutely obsessed with you." Over the years, I noticed the subtle signs of her jealousy. The backhanded compliments about my career, the way she would remind Jasmine of inside jokes. I could not be part of the subtle attempts to create distance between us. I tried to be understanding. Friendships are important, and I never wanted to come between Jasmine and her friends. About 6 months before everything fell apart, Amanda went through a nasty breakup with her boyfriend of 5 years. He had cheated on her with a coworker, and the betrayal hit her hard. Jasmine, being the loyal friend she was, stepped up to support her. "She just needs me right now," Marcus, Jasmine explained when she started canceling our plans to be with Amanda. "She does not have anyone else." I understood, or at least I tried to. But as weeks passed, Amanda seemed to become more and more dependent on Jasmine. Late-night phone calls, emergency meetups, constant text messages. It felt excessive, but I kept my concerns mostly to myself, not wanting to seem insensitive. What I could not ignore were the comments Amanda started making whenever I was around. Little seeds of doubt she was planting. "Men always cheat," when given the opportunity, she would say casually over dinner at our place. "It is just how they are wired." "Not all men," I would counter, uncomfortable with the generalization. Amanda would just smile knowingly. "That is what they all say until they do it." I did not realize then that these comments were the beginning of something much more calculated. I just thought she was processing her own pain. I was wrong. The pregnancy came as a surprise. We had talked about having kids someday, but we were not actively trying. When Jasmine showed me the positive test, I was stunned for a moment before an overwhelming joy took over. "Are you serious? We are going to have a baby?" I asked, my voice cracking with emotion. Jasmine nodded, tears in her eyes. I could not tell if they were happy tears or scared tears, probably a mix of both. I pulled her into a hug, my mind already racing with plans for our future. "We are going to be amazing parents," I whispered into her hair. I love you so much." Over the next few days, we talked about what this meant for us. Jasmine expressed some concerns about her career. She had just started getting bigger clients and was worried about taking time off. "We will figure it out together," I promised her. "I can adjust my schedule. We can look into flexible childcare options. Whatever you need to keep your career going." She seemed reassured, and we started making plans. We decided to wait until the first trimester was over, before telling most people, just to be safe. We only shared the news with our immediate families, who were thrilled. My parents immediately started talking about being grandparents, and my mom began knitting a baby blanket. Jasmine's parents were equally excited, her mom already planning a visit for when the baby would arrive. The pregnancy was what made me start thinking seriously about proposing. We had discussed marriage before in hypothetical terms, but now it felt like the right time to make that commitment official. I wanted our child to be born into a family where their parents were fully committed to each other. I started researching rings and saving money, picking up extra projects at work to build our nest egg. Little did I know that these extra hours would play a role in the tragedy to come. As I took on additional work to save for our future, my hours at the office grew longer. I tried to make up for it by being fully present when I was home, but I could tell Jasmine was feeling the distance. She became more emotional and distant, which I attributed to the pregnancy hormones. "Are you feeling okay? You seem quiet tonight," I asked one evening as we sat on the couch supposedly watching a movie together. Though Jasmine seemed lost in thought. "I am fine. Just tired," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "The baby makes me exhausted." I suggested she talk to her doctor about it, but she brushed it off. Instead, she started spending more time with Amanda. They had always been close, but now it seemed like Amanda was at our apartment whenever I was not there. Small changes in behavior started to concern me. I caught Jasmine checking my phone one morning while I was in the shower. When I asked her about it, she said she was just checking the time, but her expression told me otherwise. "You know you can ask me anything, right?" I said. "If something is bothering you, we can talk about it." "Nothing is bothering me," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. Then she canceled our weekly date nights 2 weeks in a row, something she had never done before. The first time she claimed she was not feeling well, and the second time Amanda needed her for some emergency that was never fully explained. I was worried, but told myself it was just a rough patch. Every relationship has them, especially with the added stress of a pregnancy. We would get through it like we always did, by talking and working together. I could not have been more wrong. In my 7th month with BlueTech, I was asked to attend a week-long conference in Seattle to represent our team. It was a great opportunity professionally, but the timing felt off with everything happening at home. "It is just a week," Jasmine said when I expressed my reluctance to go. "We will be fine." I was not convinced, but my supervisor made it clear that this was important for my career. So I packed my bags and promised to call Jasmine every night. The conference itself was intense. Long days of presentations and networking left me exhausted, but I always made time to call Jasmine before bed. Our conversations felt strained, though. She seemed distracted and short with me, ending our calls quickly. "Is everything okay at home?" I asked on the 3rd night. "Everything is fine," she replied flatly. "Just tired as usual." My colleague Sarah noticed I was struggling with putting together my presentation for the final day. She offered to help organize my notes and slides, staying late at the hotel conference room to assist me. "No need to mess this up just because you are homesick," she joked as we worked. Sarah was married with 2 kids and had been nothing but professional. When my presentation went well on the final day, the whole team went out to celebrate at a restaurant near our hotel. There were 8 of us around the table, sharing stories and unwinding after a successful week. I was so ready to get home that I managed to switch to an earlier flight, wanting to surprise Jasmine. I picked up a small gift for her at the airport, a Seattle snow globe with the Space Needle, that I knew she would find amusingly tacky, and headed home with a lighter heart. I had no idea that this innocent business trip was being twisted into something sinister back home. With the conference behind me and some extra money saved, I decided it was time to buy the engagement ring. I asked my brother Adam to help me choose one, knowing he had good taste, and Jasmine had always admired his wife's ring. "Are you sure you are ready for this?" Adam asked as we looked at different options at the jewelry store. "It is a big step. I have never been more sure of anything," I told him. "She is the one. And with the baby coming, I want us to be a real family." We finally found the perfect ring, a vintage-style oval diamond, with small sapphires on either side. It cost me 3 months of savings, but seeing it in the small velvet box made it all worth it. The proposal planning came next. I wanted it to be intimate and meaningful, not a big public spectacle. I made reservations at Lupo's, the Italian restaurant where we had our first date. I coordinated with the manager to have our usual table decorated with small candles and her favorite flowers. As the day approached, I practiced what I would say. I wanted Jasmine to know how much she meant to me, how excited I was about our future together, about the family we were building. The night before the proposal, I wrote her a letter expressing my love and my dreams for our life together, specifically mentioning how I could not wait to meet our child and be parents together. I sealed it in an envelope to give her after she accepted the ring. "She will say yes, right?" I asked Adam nervously on the phone that morning. "Of course she will," he reassured me. "You two are perfect together." With butterflies in my stomach and the ring box safely in my jacket pocket, I headed to pick up Jasmine for our dinner reservation, completely unaware of the devastation waiting for me. I arrived at our apartment to find Jasmine dressed for dinner but looking tense. Her eyes were slightly red as if she had been crying, but she smiled when she saw me and accepted the bouquet of lilies I had brought. "You look beautiful," I said, trying to calm my nerves. "Thank you," she replied quietly. "These are lovely." The drive to the restaurant was awkward. Jasmine stared out the window, responding to my attempts at conversation with short answers. I told myself she was just tired, that everything would be perfect once we got to the restaurant, and she understood why tonight was special. At Lupo's, we were seated at our usual corner table, now decorated with candles and small vases of flowers. Jasmine seemed surprised by the setup but did not comment on it. Throughout dinner, she barely touched her pasta and kept checking her phone under the table. My carefully planned evening was not going as expected, but I was determined to follow through. When dessert arrived, I knew it was time. I took a deep breath, reached for the ring box in my pocket, and got down on one knee beside the table. "Jasmine, these past 3 years have been the happiest of my life." I began, my heart pounding. "You have brought so much joy and meaning to my world, and I cannot imagine my future without you. Especially now as we prepare to become parents, I want to make our family official. Will you?" Before I could finish, Jasmine burst into tears. Not the happy tears I had hoped for, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. "I cannot do this," she choked out. "Marcus, I need to tell you something." My hand froze on the ring box, still half opened. "I terminated the pregnancy last week," she said, her voice barely audible. The restaurant around us seemed to disappear. There was a rushing sound in my ears, like I was underwater. I could not have heard her correctly. "What did you say?" I asked, my voice strange and distant. "I had an abortion," she repeated, tears streaming down her face. "I am so sorry." I slowly got back into my seat, the ring box clutched in my hand, so tightly my knuckles were white. The world was spinning, and I could not make sense of her words. Our baby was gone. Without any discussion. Without even telling me. Why was all I could manage to say. The waiter approached our table but quickly backed away when he sensed the situation. I barely noticed. "Can we please go somewhere else to talk about this?" Jasmine asked, wiping at her tears. I nodded numbly, threw some cash on the table, and followed her outside in a daze. We found a park bench, a block from the restaurant. The night air was cool, but I could not feel it. I could not feel anything except a growing sense of horror. "I thought you were cheating on me," Jasmine finally said after we sat in silence for several minutes. "Cheating on you? With who?" I asked, completely confused. "Sarah from your work," she replied. "Amanda showed me the messages between you two. And the pictures from your dinner in Seattle." My mind raced, trying to understand. "What messages?" "Sarah is married with kids. We work together. That is it." Jasmine pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text conversations, supposedly between Sarah and me, discussing meeting up in hotel rooms, and how we needed to keep things quiet. Then she showed me photos from the team dinner in Seattle, cropped to make it look like just Sarah and I were there sitting close together. "These are fake," I said immediately. "I never sent these texts." "And that dinner was with the entire team after my presentation. You can see the other people at the table if the photo was not cropped." "Amanda got these from someone at your company," Jasmine insisted, though doubt was beginning to creep into her expression. "Who at my company?" I demanded. "Give me a name." She could not. As we talked, the horrible truth emerged. Amanda had been systematically feeding Jasmine lies about me for months. She had somehow created fake text conversations, manipulated photos, and convinced Jasmine that I was planning to leave her for Sarah. She told me you took the business trip as an excuse to be with her, Jasmine explained, her voice hollow. She said she had proof you never even stayed at the conference hotel. I have the hotel receipts, I said numbly. I have emails from the conference organizers. Why would you believe these lies without even talking to me? You were distant, she whispered. Working late all the time. I was emotional from the pregnancy, and Amanda was there every day showing me more evidence. She said men always leave when babies come. The full weight of what happened hit me then. My child, my baby, was gone forever because of lies. Because Jasmine had trusted Amanda over me. Because we had somehow failed at the one thing I thought we were good at: communication. When did you decide? I asked, my voice breaking. Amanda drove me to the clinic last week, she admitted. I was going to tell you after, but I could not find the words. Then you planned this dinner, and... Her voice trailed off as she seemed to really see the ring box still clutched in my hand. Oh God, Marcus. What have I done? The horror in her voice mirrored my own feelings. I do not remember much about leaving Jasmine on that bench. I just know I could not stay there another second. I walked away in a daze, ignoring her calls for me to come back. I got into my car and just drove with no destination in mind. About 20 minutes later, I had to pull over because I could not see through the tears. I sat on the side of some anonymous suburban road and broke down completely. Great heaving sobs tore through my body as I finally processed what had happened. My future, my child, my relationship, all destroyed in one night. At some point I called my brother. It must have been after midnight, but he answered immediately. Adam, I choked out. She got rid of our baby. She thought I was cheating. The baby is gone. He did not understand at first, but as I poured out the whole story, he listened in shocked silence. Where are you? I am coming to get you, he insisted. I do not even know, I admitted, looking around for a street sign. Eventually, Adam found me and drove me back to his place. I spent that night on his couch, drifting in and out of consciousness, hoping each time I woke that it had all been a terrible nightmare. The next day, I had to face returning to our apartment. Adam offered to come with me, but I needed to do it alone. I needed to see the space we had shared and come to terms with what had happened. The apartment was quiet when I arrived. Some of Jasmine's things were gone, and a note sat on the kitchen counter. It was a partial apology saying she was staying with her parents and would give me space to think. As if space to think could somehow fix what had happened. I wandered into what would have been the nursery. We had not started decorating yet, but in my mind I had already pictured it with a crib and changing table. Now it would remain an empty, spare room. In my desk drawer, I found the sonogram picture from Jasmine's first appointment, a tiny blob that was our baby. I sat on the floor holding that grainy image and cried until there were no tears left. The next 2 weeks were the darkest of my life. I took leave from work, unable to function or face questions about why my engagement plans had failed so spectacularly. I barely ate or slept, just existing in a fog of grief and betrayal. Adam brought me food and checked on me daily. My parents came to visit, concerned, after I had stopped answering their calls. Their presence helped, but nothing could touch the hollow space that had opened inside me. Through Adam, who had spoken to Jasmine's sister, I learned more about what had happened. Amanda had apparently been carefully manipulating the situation for months. She had used a text spoofing app to create fake conversations, photoshopped images, and even created a fake email account pretending to be Sarah to send messages to herself that she could show Jasmine. The most devastating revelation was that Amanda had apparently been in love with Jasmine for years. Her recent breakup had been real, but it had motivated her to try to break us up so she could have Jasmine for herself. Jasmine had called and texted me countless times, but I could not bring myself to respond. What was there to say? How could we possibly move forward from this? Even if I could somehow forgive her for not trusting me, for not talking to me, before making a decision about our child. The baby was gone. That could never be undone. Finally, after 3 weeks of silence, I agreed to meet her. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed closure. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory where neither of us had any memories together. Jasmine looked terrible, her face gaunt, dark circles under her eyes. I probably looked no better. Thank you for meeting me, she said quietly as I sat down across from her. I nodded but said nothing. I did not trust my voice yet. I know there is nothing I can say to fix this. She continued, her eyes filling with tears. But I need you to know how sorry I am and what really happened. She explained how Amanda had confessed everything when confronted. The jealousy, the manipulation, the lies, all driven by her unrequited feelings for Jasmine. Amanda had seen the pregnancy as a threat, knowing it would bind Jasmine to me permanently, so she had escalated her plan. She knew exactly when to show me things when I was emotional and you were busy, Jasmine explained. She would comfort me after showing me evidence, making me dependent on her. I see it all now, but then, why did you not talk to me? I asked, finally finding my voice. We always talked about everything. How could you make that decision without even asking me, if the accusations were true? I was scared and hormonal and not thinking clearly, she admitted. Amanda kept saying, if I confronted you, you would just lie, and then leave me as a single mother. I was terrified, Marcus. I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I will regret it forever. Jasmine reached across the table for my hands, but I pulled away. I love you, she whispered desperately. We can get through this. We can try again, have another baby when we are ready. Please give us another chance. Looking at her tear-stained face, I realized I still loved her too. But love was not the issue. Trust had been irrevocably broken. And our child, our baby, who would have had my eyes or her smile, was gone forever. Some things cannot be fixed, Jasmine, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Some decisions cannot be undone. Her face crumpled as she realized what I was saying. Please, she begged. I will do anything. Therapy, whatever you need. I need time, I said, standing up. I cannot make any decisions right now. As I walked away, I knew in my heart what my final decision would be. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The weeks that followed were a slow journey toward healing. I started therapy, trying to process the complicated grief of losing a child I never got to meet, and the relationship I thought would last forever. My therapist helped me understand that grief is not linear. Some days I felt almost normal, and others the pain was as fresh as that night in the restaurant. The anger came in waves, too directed, sometimes at Jasmine, sometimes at Amanda, and sometimes at myself, for not seeing the warning signs. Could I have prevented this if I had been more present, I asked during one session. You cannot take responsibility for other people's choices, my therapist reminded me. You were working extra to save for your future family. That was an act of love, not neglect. Jasmine continued to reach out, asking for another chance. She sent letters detailing her own therapy journey, her realization of how she had allowed Amanda to manipulate her and her plans for how we could rebuild trust. I considered it carefully. Part of me wanted to try again. Despite everything, I still cared for her deeply. But another part knew that every milestone in a potential future together would be shadowed by what we had lost. Every birthday, every anniversary, every child we might have would carry the ghost of the one we never got to meet. After 2 months of deliberation, I made my decision. We met one last time, and I explained as gently as I could that I could not rebuild a relationship on such a fractured foundation. I forgive you, I told her, and I meant it. But forgiveness does not mean we should be together, she cried, but I think she understood. Some actions have permanent consequences, no matter how much we wish they did not. 6 months have passed since that night at the restaurant. I have a new job now at a smaller company with a better work-life balance. I moved to a new apartment in a different neighborhood, needing a fresh start without constant reminders. The grief is still there, but it has changed shape. I no longer feel like I am drowning in it. I can think about Jasmine now without that immediate stab of pain, though I doubt I will ever fully understand how we went from planning a family to strangers in such a short time. I have learned valuable lessons through this experience, about trust and the importance of direct communication, about not keeping important relationships in your life separate where misunderstandings can fester, about recognizing red flags in friendships as well as romantic relationships. Perhaps most importantly, I have learned that forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. You can forgive someone, truly wish them well, and still recognize that your paths should not be linked anymore. I heard from mutual friends that Jasmine moved to another state for a fresh start too. She cut ties with Amanda completely. I hope she finds peace and healing. Despite everything, I do not wish her ill. As for me, I am cautiously optimistic about the future. I am not ready to date yet, but I can envision a time when I might be open to building a relationship again, this time with clearer eyes and better boundaries. The experience has changed me forever, but I refuse to let it define me. Every day is a step forward, and I carry the lessons with me. What would you do if you were in my situation? Could you forgive such a profound betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible even after unimaginable pain. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most necessary growth.